All right, for this code your own, we've got some prompts over here and we only have to pick one. So over on the right it says have the user enter two numbers and add them, or write a budget calculator that asks users their cost and provides a total. Or you can write a story where the user enters numbers that are used to calculate output values. Or you can totally create your own. The requirements here are you must have a print command, you must have an input command, you must assign a value to a variable with an equal, you must concatenate two strings. Concatenate means you need plus signs. And convert between two types. So we have to convert between string and integer, or string and float, or float and integer, or something to that effect. We run solution. They're giving us the monthly budget. How much do you spend on rent? We spend, I don't know, 400. How much do you spend each month on food? Let's say 500. How much do you spend each month on electricity? Let's say 100. Boy, this is a cheap apartment here. How much do you spend a total month on TV? Let's assume you go cheap. We'll say 50 bucks. How much do you spend on clothes? Let's say 100. And how much do you spend on games? I would bet probably 100. How much do you spend on everything else? I don't know, 250. And then your total budget is $1,500 in program. So what we've got to do is something similar, okay, if we decide to go with that budget, okay? But obviously you've got some options. So if you're like, I have no idea, GPI, please help me figure this out. Let's just start out here. I'm going to put my cursor at line 8. I'm going to hit the space bar a bunch of times to give me some space. That's how you create more lines to code from. So we're going to start with, let's say the variable is going to be called food equals input. Why am I doing this? Because I created a variable called food to store whatever they're going to tell me their favorite food or how much they spend on food is. So there's input. We go parenthesis, quotation mark. How much do you spend on, let's say, fast food each month? Question mark, quotation mark, parenthesis. Okay? Then let's talk about games. So we're going to say games equals input, parenthesis, quotation mark. How much do you spend on games, including DLCs, each month? Question mark, quotation mark, parenthesis. Then let's talk about clothes equals input, parenthesis, quotation mark. How much do you spend on clothes and shoes each month? Question mark, quotation mark, parenthesis. And then what's something else that a kid buys? What does a kid buy? Let's say everything else. Everything else. Oops. Let's just say everything. Equals input, parenthesis, quotation mark. How much do you spend on all other things in a month? Question mark, quotation mark, parenthesis. That covers whatever it is you spend your money on. Okay? So we've got 4 variables so far. Food, games, clothes, everything. We're going to have to do some math. Okay? So we're going to set up a total variable equals, and I've got to add all these together. But up here, the computer is taking whatever you say, and it doesn't know yet that it's a number. The computer is saving it as a string. We have to turn all of these into numbers. All right, so we're going to make them into floats, because I don't know if you added change or not. Okay, so let's assume that you have the option to add change. So by using float, we're going to have decimal points, which means we can have change. If I chose to use an integer is a whole number, therefore it would round and it would get rid of whatever change you say. Okay, so I don't care if you use integer or float, that's totally up to you. I'm going to use float in this example. So I go float, parenthesis, food, parenthesis. turning the string into a float, plus, just one plus, because we're adding. This is plus for add, not plus for concatenate, by the way. Then I go float, parenthesis, games, parenthesis, plus float, close, parenthesis, plus everything. Whoops. I need float first. Float, parenthesis, everything, parenthesis. Okay, so our total is going to be a bunch of floats. They're all going to be added together. Now I need to print what the total is going to be. And when I do that, I need a string, and I also need to concatenate my total into a string, because currently my total is going to be a float. Why? Because I just shoved a bunch of floats in there. So it is a float. Okay? It's a float full of floats. Haha. Okay. Or let's be funny. I hope you have a job because your monthly expenses total space quotation mark. Now here comes the concatenation plus, and here comes the typecast. Some of you missed that on the quiz. This is typecasting. Here we go. STR, parenthesis, total, parenthesis. By the way, up here, the float and all that, that's typecasting too. Okay? So now, I've got my string. I've got my typecasted concatenated variable. I just lost all my code. Where did it go? There it is. I need to get my cursor down here. And I go plus quotation mark space doll hairs. Yes, it's dollars. I know, but I got to entertain myself. Okay, so let's look at it from the beginning. It was a long one. Print, I hope you have a job because your monthly expenses total. And then actually print whatever they total from line 13. And then I end with the dollars. So let's practice. Here we go. Run this code. How much do you spend on fast food each month? How much does my teenage son spend on fast food each month? I'm going to guess $75. Enter. How much do you spend on games, including DLCs, each month? OMG. Well, he does have a job. So I'm going to guess $100, but because I want to see a float, I'm going to say 50 cents. How much do you spend on clothes and shoes each month? You know, I don't think he spends anything on clothes and shoes. He waits for me to buy them. And how much do you spend on all other things in a month? Well, I do know he plays Magic. And I do know he plays other games over at Battlegrounds to board games. So I'm going to guess that he spends about $150 a month. And let's just throw some change in there for our float. And say enter. Okay. I hope you have a job because your monthly expenses total $326.25. Woohoo! Okay. By the way, did you notice how this question right here, how is slid over and the other ones are not? Let me show you why. Right here, when I type, I have this habit of putting a space after my quotation mark, which isn't bad. Nothing wrong with that. But I didn't space right there. And so that's why that one looked a little weird. It was a little off. Okay? But that doesn't hurt the code a bit. All right. That was it for Code Your Own Budget. Turn this baby in.